Welcome to Finding Alara, a safe space where authors, artists, and creatives share their world-building style and mindfulness tactics. Brought to you by Bushland Castle Productions, a micro-publisher with an author support platform that nurtures creative growth and storytelling excellence. Welcome to the Indie Author Book Fair Minisode series. All of these interviews were recorded as a live stream from the Indie Author Book Fair on the 30th of November 2025 in Bunbury. Each minisode will have the live interview component with myself or Paul Vandermeer from Forest.chat, an additional conversation that the author had with Chris Ilsley at the event, and an excerpt from one of their creative works which may just inspire you to have a closer look at what is available in the indie book world. Interview 7 of 27 is Mark Aeschlimann. Mark Aeschlimann hails from Perth, Australia, and is predominantly a young adult fantasy author, although inspiration in any genre cannot be ignored. By day, he builds websites for those who strive to make the world a better place, as he has done since 2006. Themes of justice for the oppressed are ever present in whatever he creates. A long-time consumer of anything fantasy and sci-fi, Mark's adoration of fantastical world-building has become a passion in his own writing, along with characters whose complexity mirrors that of the real world. His first book, A Dawn Left Behind, The Tales of Matthew Parler, has the hook. Matthew is propelled into a world where everything he knew is meaningless, and being human draws unwanted attention, where magic and power go hand in hand, where he serves an even more important purpose than he could possibly imagine. His second book, A Perfect Fantasy, is a no-spice contemporary slow-burn romance that explores the weight of old wounds and the quiet courage it takes to step outside of comfort zones. When an unexpected encounter sparks a chance at something real, Will and Jess have to decide if risking their hearts is worth the fall. Mark's books are available on Amazon, and the direct link is in the show notes. We have done our best to clean up the audio for the interview, but it was recorded live. Some of the background noise is still there. I hope you enjoy these little chats. I will come back at the end to share my key takeaways and who the next guest is going to be.
Righto, we're here with Mark Aeschlimann.
Yep.
Apparently it's much easier to say than it is to read, so, that's a good thing.
Definitely is. A lot of letters.
Welcome along, Mark. Great
Thank
to
you.
see you here. We're talking about the books that you've got and that sort of thing, but
Yes.
First up, how long have you been into this writing gig?
So I did a little bit of writing when I was a teenager a long time ago, and that kind of just went on the back burner for a long time. And then I decided to start really making a big effort to write in 2019. Took a year to write my first book, and then that kind of sat on the shelf for a long time. And I eventually decided to go through and start editing it. Eventually was convinced by some friends last year to finally publish it. So finally jumped into that world and then decided that it was something for me, and then just kept going.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like the writing process is a very internalised
Yes.
process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then to get it out there, it's like almost a flip over to the other side.
Yep. Completely different part of the personality that I really don't dip into as much. So yeah, it really took a lot of convincing from friends to really push it out there and see what the public thought about it.
And how many times did your friends have to read it before they actually said, hey, come on?
They hadn't actually read it. They had just listened to me talk about it and then thought it was a good idea. And they all bought the book, so that was good.
Even better, yes.
And the feedback has been really good. So yeah, it was a good idea in the end.
In the end. Oh, fantastic. That's great to hear. So as a writer, what are 5 words that describe you?
I guess creator, I'll count these out. Creator of unique magical worlds.
Unique magical worlds.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say you're a world builder?
Yes, definitely world builder. Love Dungeons and Dragons, that type of stuff. So anything where there's really in-depth world building, I love.
Ah, fantastic. So are you building worlds that are tech heavy or tech weak? Or maybe I should say pre-tech.
It's going into the unique worlds, I guess. It's kind of a lot of magical tech inside my the world in A Dawn Left Behind. So there's races which have their own innate magic, and then there's also some magical power sources that go into the technology that they use as well. So there's kind of a mix of both in there.
And that's a good way to have of the world, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. All right. And what brought you to this genre that you're writing in?
Whatever the medium, I always go to fantasy and sci-fi. So having this kind of mix of magic and technology just made sense to me. And something that's kind of not out there as much as other things. It's a lot of things are either technology or magic. So kind of having this munge of both of them was really made sense to me with all the stuff that I watch.
Oh, right, excellent. So it's a real extension of who you are.
Yes.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Now, this indie authoring gig, did you know what you were getting into?
Not exactly. It's only really when you jump in, you get a sense of what you really need to do to make this work. So I knew that being an independent author, everything would be on me to do, but knowing exactly what that was, I had no idea until I actually did it.
And what was the most surprising thing that you've had found out along that journey?
More the pre-publishing and all of the steps to do to make it really a complete work before it actually goes out there. A lot of that I didn't quite know about when I published the first book. So now I think I'm a bit more in tune with how it all works. So yeah, I think that the biggest part for me was kind of knowing the process and finding what works for me, and now I've got a bit of a groove going.
All right. And if you're going to give some tips to a new starter in the indie author publishing realm, what would they be?
Probably first tip is to get on social media and be in contact with other authors and ask them questions. That's the best way to find out how to make it work. The things that I didn't do when I first brought out my book. So that's the biggest thing. Having a social media profile long before you start. I only kind of started mine probably a month before I brought out the first book, so I didn't have much of a following. So getting that organised well before, so that people are really following you along the journey as well, so that they've got more of that personal touch of everything that you're doing and get that excitement going for when your book actually comes out.
Excellent. And you've got 2 books here today?
Yes.
What are they called?
First is A Dawn Left Behind. That's an upper young adult fantasy. And the second is A Perfect Fantasy, which isn't fantasy. It is a contemporary sweet romance novella.
Okay. So you've got a little bit of something different under the cover.
Yeah, something that I just decided to see if I could write that genre, because it was definitely not something I was used to, and the feedback was really good, so I went through with it.
All right, great to hear. And if someone wanted to get a hold of your books, where do they go?
The easiest place would be my social media, which is mark.aeschlimann on everything. And that has links through to everything. I'm on Amazon. I'm on pretty much everything.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to find. If you search for my books, then you should be able to easily find them.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Great to have a chat.
Cheers.
Have you finished building your story and you're not sure which pathway to choose for publishing? The Book Reality Experience is a publishing assistance service offering partnership publishing solutions to authors. We have different pathways available, and we'll recommend what we think works best for you and your story. Check out our website at www.bookreality.com for more information. Together, let's turn your book dream into a reality.
And here we are at the Indie Book Festival in Bunbury, and another one of our authors has a name that I bet he has a lot of fun getting people to pronounce correctly. I'm going to have a go. Mark Aeschlimann. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, it is.
Mark, by the way, hails from Perth. He's predominantly a young adult fantasy author, although inspiration in any genre, he can't ignore it. It's one of those things like temptation, really, just can't ignore it. By day, he builds websites for those who strive to make the world a better place, as he has done since 2006. His themes of justice for the oppressed are ever present in whatever he creates. He's a long-time consumer of anything fantasy and sci-fi. Mark's adoration of the fantastical world has become a passion in his own writing, along with characters whose complexity mirrors that of the real world. And he joins us right now. You became an author sci-fi was your favourite genre. What made you want to write sci-fi? There's a lot of sci-fi stuff around. So what made you say, I'm going to produce something that's going to stand out?
So originally, I wasn't going to write anything. Then someone close to me passed away. He passed away at 18 years old. And so I decided that I was going to try and write a book to kind of give him more life than he was afforded. And that turned into this. So he's the main character of A Dawn Left Behind is based on him. And I wrote a book that he would have loved to read and what I definitely love to read. So.
Well, what is the fascination, do you think, with sci-fi? Because, and you obviously working in the world of IT would understand that stuff even we had as kids that was sci-fi, that was make-believe, has actually become real. You know, even Maxwell Smart with his shoe phone, that was actually a very crude way of saying this is a mobile phone.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the book's like very much a mix of fantasy and sci-fi.
Yep.
So it's got magic. He goes through to another world, but there's also kind of a magical power source that really fuels the technology in that world.
Yep.
So for me, I really wanted to just come up with a unique world that I hadn't seen written in a book. The styling is very much kind of 1800s up to the 1920s. And
how do you incorporate that in sci-fi? Because we always grew up thinking sci-fi was futuristic.
Yep.
But whenever we thought of sci-fi, it was something that happened in the future, you know, in a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
The line that was missing was from a time a long way in the future. That was a bit that was missing, isn't it? How do you go back with sci-fi?
I guess because I kind of deal a lot with oppression and that type of stuff. There's a lot of those dystopian elements that come into it. So it is a lot of like class tension and that type of stuff. And there's the workers. So for me, it was quite easy to kind of pull it back to a lot of people who do have these technological advancements, but they also have a style and culture that's kept within something completely different. And then because there's a lot of people who, class-wise, they're a working class, they don't have that affordability of opulence, so they would be forced to kind of be pulled back into more of a world that seems more from back in the day.
Even though you go back in the day, you still have to envisage futuristic stuff, don't you?
Yes.
It's like two completely opposite worlds meeting somewhere in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one of my inspirations was the TV show Arcane, and that has a lot of that magical, technological type element and steampunky type things.
Yep.
So it has that feel and aesthetic of something from a long time ago, while having the ability to use certain objects that we just don't have in this world.
Even though things featured in sci-fi are obviously either futuristic or simply fantastical, does there have to be a believable element about it?
I mean, for me, the believability comes in the characters, and if they are relatable, then I feel like people will buy into the story and buy into those characters, and then they're more willing to kind of just take on board all of these fantastical elements that they'll have to just envisage based on what's written. But as long as they can relate to the relationships and what the people are going through, then they'll have buy-in for what's going on in the story.
One of your books is called A Dawn Left Behind.
Yes.
That creates a feeling of something that you should still have that you no longer do.
Yes. So essentially, the world we live in is Dawn.
Yep.
And Matthew Parler, he's an 18-year-old. He's lost everything and he's inherited some objects. And he finds a doorway to another world.
Yep.
And that world is called Dusk. So as part of kind of a coming of age for him and him trying to find the answers for himself, he leaves Dawn behind to go into Dusk and find the answers to all these things that he's inherited but has no idea what they are.
Well, the other book, A Perfect Fantasy, the title, A Perfect Fantasy, it's like your ultimate fantasy. Any fantasy you could have, this is the one that you wanted to have. That's the illusion that creates. Is that what you set out to create?
Strangely enough, that's a very different genre. That one is a contemporary sweet romance. So that kind of slightly based on my own life, one of the main characters. So it's a guy who writes fantasy and a girl who reads fantasy, and they're two characters in their 30s that are trying to overcome their own anxieties and traumas, and then learn to be able to let themselves love again and find each other. So the fantasy is them being able to embrace their own fantasy of what they want in life.
And what is it that makes you write a book like that when, to the greatest extent, you've basically been a sci-fi man?
That is a great question.
You don't know the answer, do you?
No. One day it just sparked in my head and it wouldn't go away. And I was talking to some other author friends. I kind of pitched the idea to them, and some of them are romance authors or romantasy authors. And so they thought it was a good idea and told me to run with it. And I did, and the feedback was great. So I just pushed it out.
What's the old line? It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yes.
Mark Aeschlimann, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for telling us about your books.
Thank you very much.
So the excerpt I have for you today has been provided with a little context. Matthew has discovered a portal to another world. Soon after arriving, he was taken captive and locked up. This is part of his attempted escape with another prisoner, Saris. There is also reference to other races, Squaw and Lorai. Saris is a pure. Here we go. The man at the table, a peach-coloured squaw with short tendrils tied up behind his head, was sitting on a chair, feet up on the table, arms crossed and seemingly dozing off. The two other Lorai, a man and a woman, Matthew assumed based on their voices, although it was hard to tell since they were both bald with saggy skin and floppy ears. They were both having an intense discussion about which of the barrels were the ones they needed. Just behind them, in the far corner of the room, Matthew spotted something familiar. Although his view was somewhat obscured by both barrels and a shelf packed with a number of strange-looking items, Matthew could see part of the outline of a doorway, like the one the Dawn crew used to get to dusk. This one, however, was literally an open doorway with the other side clearly visible. There was a blue tinge to everything on the other side of the doorway, like looking through glass into an aquarium. "Damn liar," Matthew said under his breath. "What was that?" Saris whispered. "I'll tell you when we get out of here," Matthew replied. Saris nodded and pointed the path for them to take. After Matthew nodded confirmation, they crept around their cover and scurried over to another group of barrels just behind the man at the table. They held low and still for a few moments to ensure they hadn't been noticed. The two Lorai continued their discussion, and the squaw was still dozing on the chair. Carefully, they crept out from the barrels and slowly moved past the dozing man. They passed the table and reached the rows of shelves which could give them extra cover. They were almost to the door when Matthew stepped on a loose floorboard. A loud creak erupted from under his feet. Matthew's eyes widened and Saris turned her head to look at him, her eyes just as wide. Matthew looked back at him. They held their breaths as the room went silent. The man on the chair opened his eyes. It took a few seconds for the squaw to register what was happening. As soon as he had, he stood up and shouted, "The prisoners!" The Lorai came running around the shelves and barrels to join the squaw. As Matthew stood, he was able to get a good look at the doorway. The other side looked like a warehouse with high industrial shelving. Matthew grabbed the first thing on the shelf next to him. It happened to be a mage ball with a black glove. Even though he had no idea how to use it, he could at least use it to hit someone over the head. The squire began to run toward Matthew and Saris. "Run!" Saris shouted and pulled Matthew behind her to the door. Matthew reached the door, pulled it open, and looked back before running through. As the man ran towards Saris, she brought up the vine in her right hand and whipped him in the face. With the vine in her left hand, she grabbed the shelves. "Damn!" Matthew said as Saris turned and ran to the door, pulling down the shelves. Matthew jumped through the doorway as she ran and slid, pulling the door closed as the shelves crashed down over where she had been, blocking the door. They both got up and began running down another stony, dusty tunnel. Up ahead of them was a supply cupboard carved into the stone with a trolley in front of it, similar to the one used to wheel Matthew to his cell. Matthew suddenly had an idea. How cool were those interviews? I thought it was quite funny, and I have this book, so I'll have to read it to find out more. I forgot to bring it with me to the fair for Mark to sign, so I have to remember next time. My first takeaway was from when he was talking to Paul and said, "You really don't know how much is involved in self-publishing until you do it yourself." That really resonates with my experience. My second takeaway was from when he was talking to Chris, and they spoke about how he believed the relatability of the characters invest people into the worlds you create. It was just phrased really well. My third takeaway was his writing tip to Paul, where he recommended getting on social media early to build your network in advance. It certainly seems there is an audience out there for people wanting to come along on the journey with you. What were your key takeaways? If you would like to carry on the conversation with Mark, then he has Instagram, TikTok and Threads. He also has his own website, markaeschlimann.com. You can find all the social links in the show notes, along with his book list. In the next special episode, you will hear from Isabel Flay. If you are enjoying the show and would like to show some support, then please subscribe and share these episodes with a friend. Or, if you want to go the next step, you can buy us a cuppa. Head on over to ko-fi.com/findingalara. That's ko-fi.com/findingalara. There is an option for you to buy us a cup of tea for $2, or you can join the Shadow Lair for $5 a month, where you receive exclusive content and advanced information about the show. If you would like to get in touch with myself or the team at Bushland Castle Productions, then I'm on Instagram and TikTok as @FindingAlara. There is a Discord channel and Facebook group called Finding Alara Podcast. The Bushland Castle Productions team are on Facebook, Instagram and Discord as BCP Creative, or you can check out the website bushlandcastleproductions.com for the most up-to-date information. If you'd like to get in touch with Chris, then he's on Facebook as Chris Ilsley, and if you want to talk to Paul, then he's on Facebook as Paul Vandermeer. He also has his own podcast, Forest.chat. The music is brought to you by @Keys of Moon Music and is called The Epic Hero. If you enjoy listening to Finding Alara, have any questions or just want to share your world with us, then please get in touch. Until next time, keep up the search for your Alara.